Well, hello everybody, and thanks for taking the time to look at my wee picture show, looking at some of the nice old classic motorcycles that I came across at the wee run frae the docks Auld Hoose at Blairgowrie just recently. Right, so basically it was myself and a friend who had headed up to Blairgowrie on the Sunday to meet up with another pal of mine who'd come up from Herefordshire in the southwest of England to take part in this wee run from the Auld Hoose in Blairgowrie. Now, he did actually take part on the Saturday's run, but he wasn't feeling that good on the Sunday, so he decided not to take part. So we just kind of mulled around, and I took some pictures of some of the old classics just before everybody was about to set out for their selected route. And in this little picture here, you can see some of the bikes and some of the riders mulling around, getting ready to take the wee run or the long run, as was in the case with some of the other riders. Now, myself personally, I'm certainly into classic motorcycles, although it's the classic dirt bike variety that I usually comment on my YouTube channel, and not these vintage road-going machines. So let's get things absolutely clear from the start. I know absolutely nothing about these old school vintage road bikes, so I'm not going to try and insult your intelligence by pretending that I know what I'm talking about. So in this short picture slideshow, we'll just limit the conversation to looking at some of the different models that were about to take part. Although if these old timers are your game, then you'll certainly know exactly what you're looking at. So anyhow, let's crack on with our first sighting. Now, among some of the nice classics that were taking part, there was a couple of these old clunkers of vintage cars. I think that one on the left there, I'm pretty sure that was an old Alvis. I remember seeing Alvis written on the radiator grille when I took a picture of that old motor, but certainly a lovely pair of old classics. But I wasn't sure if these two cars were actually taking part in the run, or if these were maybe just placed on the lawn here for a bit of nostalgic display items. Now, naturally, of course, this was by no means all of the bikes that took part. These are just a few of the ones that I managed to grab a few pictures of in the half hour or 40 minutes that I was at this event. And in fact, when I left, there were still more bikes arriving, so who knows, I've maybe even missed some of the more interesting ones, but it must have been quite close to about 100 bikes or so that were taking part. But there were certainly bikes from all over the planet at this VMCC event, and most of the British classics were represented, and some of them I'd never even heard of as well, so I might have got a bit of an education if I could have had somebody to fill in some of the details of some of the bikes that we're looking at. But it was quite good to take a look at them just the same. But there was quite a good variety of bikes on display, including this what looks like possibly a 1974 or even 75 DT 400 Yamaha trail bike. You don't see many of these old classics still taking to the road. This one looks in quite good original condition as well. And this next bike was very interesting indeed, more or less a push bike with an engine fitted into the frame. Absolutely beautiful little piece of engineering. I don't know nothing about its title or CCs, but certainly a very interesting piece of machinery, and I don't know how long this bike would have taken to complete the route, but I think the rider might have been doing a bit more pedalling than he would have done driving, but certainly a lovely piece of old classic engineering there. Now this next bike I do know is a 1916 Baby Triumph Junior, because it's very conveniently stamped on that front mudguard nameplate, which certainly helps me out quite a lot. But another beautiful piece of British engineering, quite an unusual colour scheme as well, with that light blue and a nice picnic basket on the back. Belt drive, of course, which many of these bikes were in that period, but I certainly think that picnic basket will be filled with tools rather than sandwiches and a flask of coffee. But a lovely old Triumph. But these old cars were a couple of beauties, really, and as I said, this silver one here was, I'm pretty sure, was an Alvis. I did remember seeing the Alvis badge on the radiator. I'm not sure what the one on the far side is, but certainly early 1920s or 30s, I think. I can just imagine Laurel and Hardy driving down the street in one of these old timers. But as I said, I wasn't sure if these were actually taking part in the run, or maybe just a couple of nice show vehicles. But certainly a couple of beauties there, with the luggage on the back. So perfect holiday vehicle if you wanted to take the family away for a long weekend. But there was certainly a nice collection of classic vehicles at the Auld Hoose this year. Next up, we've got this lovely old twin-cylinder Royal Enfield. Again, I'm not particularly sure as to what year of bike this was. It would have been quite nice to be armed with all of the relevant information with regards each machine, but as I said, it's more important, I think, that we could just take a look at the bikes and admire their engineering. This was another quite nice, quite similar Royal Enfield. Again, a twin-cylinder bike, and I'm pretty sure that these models here were called flat tankers because in the obvious layout of that long, slim fuel tank. But again, another nice piece of British classic engineering, and I can imagine be quite a comfortable bike to ride when it's out on the road. Next up, we've got a lovely old BSA, another one of those V-twin classics, and I'm pretty sure that this could be a 1925 machine, because I do remember one of my mates had a similar bike to this many years ago, and his bike was a 1925 BSA, and it was quite similar to that one. And here's another nice old classic, an old HIS, which again was a beautifully turned out machine, which according to the bike's registration number, DVLA bring it out as a 1926 800cc HIS G2. But of course, if that information isn't correct, I do apologise, but nevertheless, another beautiful piece of British engineering, which of course is another one of those lovely old flat tankers. But as I said, there was really a vast selection of old bikes at this wee run event, including this American Harley Davidson here, which I think is a 1916 988 cc flat tanker, but I'm not sure if they actually call them flat tankers over there in the USA. But this is another very nice looking piece of kit. Certainly a bike that looks like it's been restored at one time in its life, but quite an unusual colour with the white wheels and white tank and mudguards and what looks like nickel plated handlebars there as well. But another very nice classic, a lovely Harley Davidson from across the pond. Now, our next bike was quite easy to date because this is a Scott TT replica from 1929. We've got the little Scott squirrel there also on that front mudguard. This was another lovely looking machine. As you can see, a twin cylinder liquid cooled two-stroke engine, which was super rare for 1929, but I do remember hearing a couple of these Scott two-strokes firing up, and they do sound quite nice when they get fired into life. But certainly another nice piece of engineering, and when you look at this Scott two-stroke engine, I do remember the oil pump there near the kickstart at the back of the engine, so it looks like this bike here was total loss oil lubrication. But of course I've known to be wrong in the past. But again, another lovely machine from the late 1920s. And again, this bike here more than likely will have been restored at one time in its life, because it looks absolutely immaculate. So somebody's done an absolutely fantastic job on this little Scott. But quite a substantial radiator you can see there just above the cylinder, so looks like it's been lined with brass on the outside as well. But you can see there was quite a selection of old classics lined up in the driveway of the docks Auld Hoose, and there were certainly some nice examples of British and American engineering lined up waiting to go on this first run of the day. And this next example here was another American Harley Davidson. Again, it's a bike that I don't know anything about, but you can see he's got the most important thing on that bike, and that's a toolbox at the back, just in case, heaven forbid, that a Harley Davidson would ever break down. But another fine example there of American engineering. Again, probably a big, massive engine, maybe 1200cc or even more, because as you know, with the Americans, you can't beat your cubic inches, so the bigger the better. But as I said, a nice example there of an American Harley Davidson. And in this lovely trio here, we've got that bike on the left, which is a 1955 BSA 350. In the middle, the blue bike, of course, is a superb classic. It's a Rudge Ulster from 1939. I think that's a 500cc machine. And this Rudge Ulster was quite similar to the bike that my friend was going to be riding on the Sunday, but unfortunately he wasn't up for the job on the Sunday. But this is an absolutely beautiful looking piece of kit, twin cylinder of course, 500 cc 4-stroker, another fantastic British classic. Of course, because this bike was kind of shoehorned in between a couple of other machines, we couldn't get a proper look at it, but still hope you appreciate taking a look at this lovely Rudge in all its glory, jammed in between that BSA and another bike there just at the bottom of your screen, which I was kind of surprised about because I'd never ever heard of an OK Supreme. So this is another piece of education I've had today, because I've certainly never heard of these bikes, and I'm assuming that these were British made at one time. But according to some internet searching, apparently these OK Supremes were made between 1899 and 1939, and they were Birmingham based, and I think they used to make grass track racing bikes as well at one time, and they said that they used to make grass track bikes up to 1946, so these bikes here certainly have a little bit of history behind them. But this 350cc BSA that was sitting at the other end of the OK Supreme was another belter of a classic, a 350 single cylinder job, and what looks like it's got one of those BSA QD wheels at the back, quick detach as they were known back in the day, which meant that you could take the wheel off, the rear wheel off, and just leave the sprocket and chain intact. But we're back again with a quick look at the back of our Rudge Ulster, another old classic from 1939. I don't see many of these bikes out and about in this current modern day. But anyhow, during my brief walk around the docks Auld Hoose, this is another classic that I came across that I knew absolutely nothing about and still don't, but this bike here certainly had Rover stamped on the engine casings, and you can see it's a very early type of motorcycle. And also tried the DVLA on the registration on this old BSA, but unfortunately it wasn't coming up with any information at all. But you can see that it's another old classic, and certainly the right bike to be taking part in this classic run. So again, I used my little bit of initiative that I've got, and I put the registration number of this bike into the DVLA search engine, and it came up with a 1927 350cc Rover. Now, as to who or what Rover were in the past, I don't know if they were even a subsidiary of Rover Cars at one time, but this is another bike that gave me a bit of an education, because it's certainly something that I've never ever come across before. Certainly an unusual layout of engine and magneto there at the far side. I don't know what that little lever there is in the middle of the casing, but certainly an intriguing piece of two-wheeled engineering, a Rover 350, and yet again it's one of those old classic flat tankers which were quite common in the 1920s. Now, of course, some of the bikes that were arriving at the docks Auld Hoose had a bit of trouble negotiating this very steep incline up the drive of the house, and this old timer here, that's a bike, of course, not the guy that's riding it, but this belt drive classic did have to have a bit of assistance from some of the bystanders to push it up the hill to get it to the starting point. So let's hope that there's not too many slopes or steep hills when this bike and its rider and passenger begin their run. But anyhow, according to the bike's registration number, this is a 1915 Triumph 550, so this bike is more, of course, than 100 years old now, so fair play to the rider and the bike, and of course the lovely passenger on the back there for their efforts in taking part. And also heading up the drive to the Auld Hoose was this quite nice looking, what looked like an American Indian machine. So this again was quite rare, and who knows, it might even be an Indian Scout. And that, of course, again is the bike we're talking about, not the actual rider, but this was again another American beauty, and it would have been quite nice to actually see this bike out there on the run. But as I said, I don't know everything about every single bike that I came across, but most of the research I've done is by using the bike's registration plates to try and find out their identity, or at the very least their year of manufacture. Anyhow, another lovely American machine there, a nice old Indian. But as I said, these kind of road-going old vintage classics are not really my bag. I do have a YouTube channel that is dedicated to classic dirt bikes, but I still like to come along to these old road-going classic events now and again. So this is maybe something that we could maybe put in the diary and make another visit in 2026. But this was another quite interesting bike. This is a Silk 700S, built, of course, by the Silk Engineering Company in Derbyshire in the UK. I think Silk built these bikes between 1975 and 1979, so they had quite a short manufacturing life. But as I remember, these two-stroke engines that were in these Silks were borrowed from the Scott Squirrel, but this one here I think was more of one of the more upmarket models that had all the mod cons like electronic ignition and some other bits and pieces. But as you can see, just like the Scott, it was also liquid cooled. And also in this lineup we had a couple of very nice looking Triumphs there, a couple of models, of course, which I'm not familiar with, but of course all of you Triumph experts out there will know exactly what you're looking at, because this is not really my field of expertise. But there's a couple of beauties here, these big Triumph twins. And according to the registrations on the bike, that silver one is a 1958 Triumph T110 650, and the lovely gold colour bike is a 1958 Triumph 650. So a lovely pair of bikes to do this run here in Blairgowrie. And I think if I was taking part in this event, then I'm pretty sure that one of these two beauties it would certainly do me very nicely, thank you, if I was taking part in this classic run. So moving right along the lineup, this next featured bike, according to my investigations, is a 1957 Scott Flying Squirrel, and this is a 600cc twin. Once again, a two-stroke liquid cooled bike, which, as I've said earlier, was quite a unique machine for 1957. This bike's almost the same age as me, so the technology back in 1957 was quite amazing for a motorcycle with a two-stroke engine and having liquid cooling, which is something that you would normally associate with maybe a much more modern Japanese machine. But again, another beautiful old classic. So anyhow, this was another bike that had just arrived at the start point at the Auld Hoose in Blairgowrie. Now this bike here is a Nimbus, which once again is something that I know absolutely nothing about, but apparently I did pick up some conversation, and I think these bikes came from Denmark, but if that particular bit of information is incorrect, then please feel free to put me right. But it was another beautiful looking piece of kit. It was a 4-cylinder machine, and according to what I could find on the interweb, these models were produced from 1919 to 1959, and I'm also led to believe that the same manufacturer that built this bike also made the Nilfisk vacuum cleaners as well, so take from that what you will. But they say that there were 3 models produced by Nimbus, and they all had 750cc 4-cylinder air-cooled motors. But this again is another very unique motorcycle, which I'm imagining not very many of these bikes were made, but as you can see, it was an air-cooled inline 4-cylinder engine, and it also had shaft drive at the back, so I can imagine that this would be a very smooth ride once this motorcycle took to the road. But certainly variety appeared to be the name of the game in this wee run from the docks Auld Hoose in Blairgowrie, because there was some really very nice bikes on display, and it did take me quite a while to even browse through one or two of them, and this was another quite nice looking machine, a Triumph Trident triple, of course. I think this one here was the kind of American spec machine with the twin disc conversion on the front, but another beautiful British classic. This is a 750 as far as I can make out, and this bike here was also another rare British classic, an old HIS, and this rider here again had just recently arrived, and he was parking up just to get ready for the start of the wee run. But I suppose if you're into your old classic road bikes, then this event certainly might be something that you might be interested in for 2026. As far as I know, it's an annual event, and I'll certainly put this in my calendar for 2026, so I can have another weekend up here in sunny Blairgowrie. And these next couple of machines were another 2 bikes that were arriving for the start of this event. I think they were, as I remember, I think a couple of old Nortons, but I didn't get a very close look at those bikes, but they were beautiful pieces of machinery, even just glancing at them from the front. And this was another bike that I came across, was this lovely Italian Ducati, probably a late 1970s machine. This is a 750 with, of course, that unique 750 V-twin Ducati motor in the chassis. And I expect that if you're an Italian motorcycle fan and these Ducatis in particular, then I'm pretty sure that you'll already know what you're looking at here. But again, another very nice looking Italian stallion. And from an Italian bred machine to a German classic, we've now got a BMW there with that fantastic Boxer engine and what looks like a dead sheep on the back of that bike seat, but I expect that fleece there will just be to make the seat a bit more comfortable on a long run. But again, I think this is a 1970s machine, but I can't be exactly sure because I don't know anything about this bike. But I suppose if you were looking for a bike that was going to be ultra reliable on the run, then this BMW Boxer would certainly fit that bill. And on that subject of comfort, I'll wager that this was probably one of the most comfortable bikes on that road run, with this big seat and that Harley Davidson motor. And according to the badge that was on that front mudguard, this is a Harley Davidson Road King, which will probably be about 1200 cc's. An engine that's quite bigger than some of the cars that I've had in the past. But it was quite a collection of nice bikes and a couple of vintage cars there. And of course, when you did arrive at the Docks Auld House venue, then you were treated with the traditional bacon roll as breakfast just before you took to the road. But even just parked here on the front of the street, there must have been at least 30 or 40 bikes in this particular part alone. So, as I said, when we were leaving, there were still bikes arriving to take part in this run. So there must have been about maybe 80 or even 100 bikes that took part throughout the day. And this was another old classic, this Royal Enfield with the single cylinder engine, and of course the sidecar outfit. So I'm imagining that this bike here had a passenger also on the road run, but there was classics abound at this event here in 2025. But of course, parked right next to this Royal Enfield was this quite nice 1955 Triumph 500, another quite rare bike. I think this machine now will be about 68 or 69 years old, so it's getting on in its years, but it does look like it's probably undergone some kind of restoration during its lifetime, as of course many of these classics do get as they get older. But another very nice old British Triumph classic. But of course, not everybody arrived as a single rider with a solo machine. This couple here arrived on what looked like an old BSA machine. I didn't get a proper look at this bike, but you can see the riders there and his missus there in the sidecar, complete with sunroof. So that sidecar outfit definitely had all the mod cons, but it was a lovely looking old BSA, and I expect that the passenger in that outfit will be well protected should the riders encounter any rain on the journey. So from a nice British classic combination to one of Japan's finest exports from the 1970s. I think this is a Kawasaki KH 400 triple. As you can see, it's another beautiful Japanese classic, but this one here I don't think is fully original because it has these pattern exhaust pipes fitted, which again is not unusual on one of these Japanese bikes, because original exhaust pipes for these bikes are just impossible to find these days, but these very nice chrome plated pipes are certainly a very good substitute. Now, in terms of rarity, this bike here was another piece of quite rare machinery. Now, I didn't actually get a proper look at this bike, and I'm going to stick my neck out here, but I think that this bike here is an old Henderson 4-cylinder machine. Now, if that particular fact isn't correct, then please put me right in the comments section, but an absolutely beautiful piece of engineering, which might even be an Excelsior, because according to my research, these bikes were made between 1912 until 1931. I'm pretty sure that these were American made machines, and they were quite popular with the police of their day, because these Henderson Excelsiors were probably the fastest thing on two wheels at that time. But the engineering on this lovely bike is simply superb. But this was another bike that I came across, which once again I don't know absolutely anything about, but I'm going to guess that it certainly looks like it could be an old Italian Moto Guzzi, according by the look of that engine there. And as I said, if that's not correct, then please feel free to reprimand me on that particular fact. But as I said, these old classic bikes are not my forte, so to speak. It's mainly old classic dirt bikes that I normally deal with, but this is certainly another nice old, what looks like Italian classic. But moving on, we've got another nice old British classic, which I've worked out is a 1928 British-made Sunbeam 350. Another one of those old classic flat tankers. And once again, if you were into your old vintage flat tankers, then there was plenty exhibits on display for you to take a look at this event. But this bike here, again, absolutely in immaculate condition, and as I said, probably at one time in its life it'll have undergone some kind of refurb or restoration. And quite close to that old Sunbeam there was another Sunbeam model that I came across, but this particular bike I don't know anything about or what year of manufacture, but a beautiful looking old classic with that single cylinder 4-stroke engine in the chassis. But you can see with the lack of suspension at the front and at the back of these old classics, it must have been quite a rough ride away back in the day when you were riding one of these motorcycles. But of course, at that time, motorcyclists were made of much sterner stuff. But I expect that this was some of the silverware that was up for grabs on the day, so I'm imagining that these trophies will have been presented to different riders in different classes at the end of the day, so at least there was some nice silverware on offer for their efforts. But as I said, I do apologise if some of the information on some of the bikes is not 100% accurate, because as I said, this is not my particular piece of expertise. I do have a YouTube channel which is dedicated to classic old dirt bikes, and these road bikes for me are another entity altogether. But it was quite an enjoyable day out, and I was only there for about 30 minutes or maybe even 45 tops, but it was a very nice afternoon looking at these old bikes, and I'll certainly maybe make a point of attending this event when we come to 2026. But I do hope you've enjoyed the few bikes that we've had a look at here for the wee run for the docks Auld Hoose at Blairgowrie in 2025.